finish this. We have to finish a little bit early today, okay? 5 minutes or more. So what are we saying? The Rebbe is saying basically that Moshiach is here. But we have to sort of accept the Moshiach. We have to, it's vague. But one thing that's clear as a, as a bell, is that Moshiach is the essence of reality, the most important thing in the world. Moshiach is here. The revelation, the Geula, is not here yet. The Rebbe says the fact is even the Geula is we just have to open up our eyes. What this means, I'm working on it, I don't know. But mainly we have to look positively and think positively. And in order to do that, we have prophets. And the Rebbe said an example of a prophet is the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. And there has to be a prophet in every generation. There has to be prophets in every generation. Al Pia now, according to this, we can understand the novelty of our last generations in general, and especially our generation, and especially in our time. Now, you have to remember the Rebbe is saying this after the fall of the Iron Curtain, after Saddam Hussein shot 39 missiles at the Jews in Israel, and absolutely nothing happened. And the Rebbe prophesied all this before it happened, written in the papers. And no one agreed with him that it was going to happen. And it happened. So the Rebbe said, especially in this generation, according to the cross that we said before, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe said, we've already finished. And according to all the signs, we are at the last seconds before the Geula, before the total redemption of the world. Now, what do we say? Remember, we had all these beautiful speeches the Rebbe gave about what is Geula, the redemption. And the Rebbe said that basically nothing will change. Nothing will change in the world. Just people's attitudes will change. Geula, all you have to take is the word Gola, Gimel, Vav, Lamed, Hey, and put an Aleph into it. And what is that Aleph? A little bit of thinking about God, a little bit of realizing how good God is, how true the Torah is. That's it. That's no big difference. A little bit of light, Aleph, or the time when the Torah commanded us, the Torah told us that we have to put judges and policemen in all of our gates. And in the course of all the generations from then, right, the Torah was given, 3,300 years ago? And especially the first generations of the exile, because they didn't merit, after the first temple was destroyed, after the second temple was destroyed, they didn't they didn't merit to a complete redemption. So therefore, it's a sign that everything has not been finished. Adayin nota rosham, there still is a little bit of a trace of the sins that they did. Like it says, the reason that we were exiled from the land of Israel is because of our sins. Because of this concealment. So in other words, the fact that we're outside of Israel, the outside, and the Israeli government is so terrible and it's so suicidal and those things, there's one person that you can blame, and that person is me. Every person, and even more, as soon as I fix myself up, then the whole thing gets fixed up, right? It's just like this temporary situation. Like I told you the joke. I think I told you the joke. I'll tell it again. But the guy comes into the doctor and he's got a sausage stuck in his nose, and a banana stuck in one of his ears, and a pickle stuck in the other ear. And he says, "Doctor, I feel terrible." And the doctor said, "It's because you're not eating properly." In other words, you're causing, he's stuck on a thing in his, you want to eat, put the food in your mouth, don't put it in your nose. You're causing your own problems. The reason that we have an exile is because we're causing it ourselves. It's not who's causing it, the other people, the government is causing it, the other guy. I'm causing it, me personally. As soon as I get my reality together, then the whole thing gets fixed up. It's just depending on nothing. that because of the concealment of the world, so therefore, there's not a complete level of judges and advisors. Therefore, because of that, so therefore they had to have policemen to force everyone. But after so many, I mean, maybe that could be a sign, another sign that Moshiach is here. They had this big call now to defund the police. I mean, there's never been such a thing in the history of the world. I mean, such a level of insane stupidity that things are going to get better if you get rid of the police. Then everybody's going to be okay. But maybe we can say this is a sign of the Moshiach, because even though it's really stupid, but in the time of Moshiach, there in fact won't be necessary police. But not because there won't be necessary police, because you won't be have to put all the, they say, you have to put the police and the good people in prison, and they'll have to be in prison because there'll be such mayhem in the streets that everybody will want to be in prison to be safe. Prison will be the only safe place that there is in the world. But the fact of the matter is that policemen won't be needed. Why won't they be needed? Why? Because people will want to do good. People won't want to steal. They won't want to hurt each other. Says the Rebbe, once before, when there was the Jewish people weren't doing what they were supposed to do, so they had to have policemen. But says the Rebbe, now, after all this, the then generations were getting closer and closer, especially the last generations, where there's all these revelations of the Chassidut. Now, again, I just one second, don't take this wrong. Maybe somebody will cut this part out and post it. When there won't be any policemen doesn't mean that there won't be any policemen in the streets for the non-Jews. It means that the Jewish people won't have to have any policemen in order to do what the Torah says. That's what it means. The Jewish people won't have to have policemen to do what the Torah says. If the Jewish people really act in the way the Torah says, then it'll have an influence on the whole world, and the urges, right, that are floating around in this the atmosphere in the streets of Chicago and Baltimore and Detroit and all these crazy places, there won't be such an urge to do bad. Right? Somebody will cut somebody else off in with his car, and he won't come out with a gun. They'll say, God bless you, okay, it's no problem. But I nicked your car, big deal, no big deal. The world will be different. Heichel, especially with the mitzvah, what's the main thing? Depend on, like we said, putting the aleph, the awareness of God in the world. That's what Chassidut does. You learn the books of Chassidut, you're only learning about God. It just talks about God, the whole thing, from the beginning to the end, every word. Bezaman, from the time of the Arizal, and afterwards from the Arizal, that was like 400 years ago, 450 years ago. And then afterwards, it says, Yafutza Manasach Chutza, that the well springs of God's knowledge are spread out by means of our Rebbes. And by means of this, it says that will return prophecy to the Jewish people, like the Rambam says. The Rambam says that right before Mashiach, prophecy will return in a big way to the Jewish people. God will reveal his secrets to the prophets. They are the prophets in our generation. Those like it says, those are the advisors of our generation. And whether the Shoftayach, whether we're talking about the judges, those are the leaders of the Jewish people, the Nisim. Namely, the Rebbe is talking about the leaders of Chabad, that the Nasi means like the king. He is above everyone else, incomparably to everyone else. He's like the Shofet, he's like the judge. He tells everybody what to do, whether they want to or not. Or also, and that also refers to the Rebbes of Chabad, that they teach Torah to the people. Those are the judges, and also the great rabbis in all the generations. And also there's the Yoatzim, the advisors. They give advice, and they bring fear of God in a, eye-to-eye level, until they give actual advice. The Rebbe has, 40 books of letters that he wrote to people. There's more and more coming out all the time, of letters that he wrote to people just in the first 10, 15, 20 years of his leadership. A fraction of the letters come out. Amazing advice given to people. And especially by learning the ideas of Chassidut Chabad, the books of Chabad. Now, if you don't know what this means, Chassidut Chabad, that's what we learn in the morning. But you can go to your local Chabad house and ask them, what's this Chassidut? What is it exactly? And maybe you can start learning. And there's ample classes online, in addition to the class that I'm giving here. But there's ample classes, beautiful classes. The teaching. This brings down Chachma, Bina Das, Chabad, the concept of God, the understanding of God, and the realization of God into our day-to-day life in a way, Shazem move on, that's understood even to the what's called the natural soul. Shemit Kabbalah, that it can be that these ideas of Hasidut, talking about the essence of God and these levels, can be actually accepted in our day-to-day life, and in our day-to-day feelings. You have to remember that it's a commandment to love God. And it's a commandment that never stops. It's one of the 6 constant commandments for all Jews in all time. Right? To love God, to fear God, to believe in God, not to believe in anything else, not to go after our eyes and our heart. Right? To unify God. These are the 6 constant commandments for all time and all place. You have to have a feeling around love. And Chassidut makes this possible. That you can actually think about God in real terms, that God is not something up in heaven that you only see after you die. God is creating us, God loves us, God cares about us. Everything that happens in the world is directed by God. It's a message by God. It's a favor by God. It's a challenge to us from God. It's an opportunity from God. Everything that happens. You look at the world in that way, then that's the way that Chassidut wants you to look at the world. That's the Moshiach. That's the teachings of Chassidut. When a person gets this, it says the toma, a person the taste, that he gets a taste of life. This makes a sha'ar, this makes a little gate and a beginning for revealing the inside of the Torah in the future, Lati Lavo. It says Mashiach is going to teach all of the world the Torah, especially by means of a te'ima, of ischalas aksha, by means of this little taste of truth that we get now, of godliness, of the inside secrets of the Torah. Right now, the Jewish people and the whole world becomes a vessel for the inside revelation of the secrets of the Torah that will come afterwards by means of the Mashiach. All of this itself was added even more in our generation. When in our generation we have the completion of Yafutzu Ma'anetecha Chutza, spreading out your well springs outward to all the furthest corners of the earth in a way that's understood by every single person. I was in Mexico. There was a time my wife liked to travel around, so we went to Mexico. We went to the Chabad houses. I don't remember what city it was, but anyway, the people in the streets, they knew the Chabad guy. He was a Lubavitcher guy. What was his name? Dayan. And when he came, everybody was yelling out, Elokut, Elokut, all these Mexican vendors and sort of Elokut, Elokut. From that, I even wrote a song. You can look up in YouTube, Tuvia Bolton, Elokut. Look up Elokut. I made a rap song about it. Elokut. The simple people in the street, whenever they saw him yell Elokut, Elokut means godliness. Even those people that are found the furthest away from God, the furthest away, all of a sudden they get ideas that there's God they didn't know. And not only that, it's been translated, the Torah, the ideas of Hasidut have been translated into every single language, Russian and etc. Like we said before, even in Braille. It says that's even printed in Braille for people that are blind. Every corner of the world can get ideas of the oneness of God, the goodness of God, the presence of God, the desire of God, the love of God, how much God loves everybody. He enlivens everybody, creates everyone. According to the Achrazah, like we said by the previous Rebbe, already announced, that we finished all the main work. We finished it. All the work of the previous Rebbes as being judges and advisors, up until this is 30 years ago, the Rebbe is saying. The Achshar Dori and our generation is a generation that is, how do you say, capable of receiving and deserving of receiving this big general revelation of Moshiach. So it's understood, Shekavari Gia, it's already, the time has come for Ashiva Shavtayach Karishona, to return back the judges like they were in the beginning, and the advisors that will start things off. And the ultimate completion, says the Rebbe, after we've already tasted by the rabbis. The rabbis already gave us a taste of it. So here says the Rebbe, we're already ready. So when this is understood, that what? That we can understand each person, that we are now in the Shabbat, Shoftim, in our generation, and especially in the last times, the last moments of the exile, that we have to, how do you say, act accordingly. Mira keneged mira, the matzav gula. Right? If you're in the palace of the king or the queen, you have to act properly. You're in the palace, you're not in the street. If Mashiach is already here and the redemption is just waiting to be revealed, so we have to act accordingly. What does it mean? To advertise. It's al-atzmo by himself. Everyone should advertise to themselves. And by all the people that you can possibly get to, shetzarichim, that you have to receive on yourself and to accept on yourself. More and more, the main teaching and the advice of the judge and the advisors of our generation, namely the Rebbes, and especially the previous Rebbe. And here the Rebbe doesn't say the previous Rebbe, the leader of our generation, the Rebbe is speaking about himself, continuing that he is the judge of our generation, and he is the advisor of our generation, and he is the prophet of our generation. Right? The Rebbe here is speaking about himself. And like the Torah says, Navi Akim Loyam Mikir V'Chechem, this week's Torah portion. I will make a prophet among your brothers just like you. God says to Moses, every generation is going to be a prophet like you. And I will put my word, not that it'll be necessarily in the level, the Mashiach will be higher, that says, than Moses. Anyway, different opinions. Nevertheless, there always will be a prophet just like you, and I will put my words in his mouth. This is God speaking to Moses, and Moses is telling this over to the Jews. I will put my words in his mouth, and the Dvar Elokim, and Alehem, and he will say everything that I command. Who are these? Elu, the Elav Tishmun. You have to listen to this prophet. And like the Rambam says, Maimonides, that if there is a person that has all these qualifications and these qualities and the criteria and the wholesomeness that has to be for a prophet, and the Maimonides lists all the criteria for a genuine prophet, and he also does all sorts of miracles, like we saw in the time of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, and of course the Rebbe is talking about himself. Hari ein anu ma'aminim. We don't believe the prophets because of the miracles that he makes, but rather because Moses commanded us that we have to listen to a prophet. And by means of this, he'll say things that are going to be in the future, like we saw by the previous Rebbe and we saw by the Rebbe. And even more than this. There will be a prophet it says that a prophet that was appointed by another prophet, as it's, for instance, in our generation, the previous Rebbe was a prophet, and he's saying, and then I was appointed by the previous Rebbe. So this is drawn, that's enough of a sign. It says, the Rambam says that if a person claims to be a prophet, that you can test him. You can test him. You can say, okay, tell us some things that are going to be. He says you shouldn't test him too much, twice, 3 times, whatever. But as soon as he says things that are going to be good things and they come to pass, you know that that's a prophet. He says, when do you have to test him? If he was not appointed by another prophet. But if he was appointed by another prophet, and another prophet testifies that this person that I'm appointing is a prophet, so that's the prophecy of the previous prophet that you don't have to test. So you don't have to test the new prophet. So he says, especially if the new prophet that comes out was appointed by the one before him, then he is considered to be a prophet automatically. And you don't have to test him. So therefore, and that's, of course, the Rebbe is speaking about himself. The Rebbe says the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe was obviously a prophet. He made ample prophecies, and he appointed someone in his place that you don't have to test, even though the Rebbe did prove himself, like I said before, with the 6-day war. So therefore, we have to listen to him, and immediately before he does any miracles, it is usher to even think about him, or to maybe have doubts about his prophecy, maybe it's not true or not. Like it says, Lo tanuso et Hashem Elokeichem, don't test God like you did in the desert. Moses is speaking to the Jews. That as soon as you know that this person is a prophet, then you have to believe in him, and you have to know that what he says is true. And since that we believe in the words of the prophet, not because of his signs that he makes, but because these are the words of God, right? Not because of him. So therefore, God says this is a prophet. Even if I feel a low divrei HaKodesh Baruch Hu shenemar al yedei navi sheni el alon amar olav. Okay, anyway, so you have to believe in the prophet. So therefore, Yeshno, says the Rebbe, and we're going to have to stop soon because I have to go. Yeshno, so this is a teaching, shetzarichem lefarsim, we have to advertise. Shezachinu, that in our generation, says the Rebbe, that we have merited HaKodesh Baruch Hu, that God, Bachar, chose, Umina, and appointed, Baal Bechira, a human being that has free will, Shemitzad Atzmo, than himself, who lo be'erich nali, he's incomparably higher than any of the other people in his generation. Sheyesh shoftayich, that he will be the judge and a prophet of the generation. And he will teach and he will give advice in regarding to the service of the Jewish people. And like I say, the miracles that the Rebbe did are advertised and known. The advice that the Rebbe gave, like I said, there's 40 books of advice that the Rebbe gave to people. This is just in his first few years. Amazing, incredible advice, to the degree that now people, if they have questions, they just open up one of these books they're called Igros Kodesh, holy letters. One of the books of letters that the Rebbe put, when the Rebbe sent a letter out, so usually there was a copy. So they're finding new ones all the time also. They're making new books. And people actually open up the books, and amazingly, they find answers to exactly their question. I've seen people open up these books, Igros Kodesh, and the Rebbe starts off the letter. They have a problem with they're in debt, and the Rebbe writes, regarding what you wrote about your debts, you should understand, and he gives the person advice. In any case, we have an advisor, we have a teacher, we have a judge, we have a prophet in all matters of Torah and mitzvahs, including all the ways. Therefore, the main prophecy that we have now, says the Rebbe, I am a prophet. I was appointed by a previous prophet. I've done miracles to show my prophecy. There has to be a prophet in every generation. There has to be. Says the Rebbe, now I'm telling you the prophecy, and you have to listen to it. What is it? La'alter le'geula. That immediately, if everybody immediately there should be the redemption. And immediately, Hine Moshiach bo, behold, Moshiach is here, arrives. How this is going to be, and together this, we have the merit that every single people of everyone in our generation should accept on himself the judge and the advisor, your judge, your advisor, and to listen and to obey what he says and the good advice that he gives. And also plural, shoftayich, yotzayich, riboy mishpatim, many laws, much advice. In addition to that, and that the shoftayich rishon, and the judges and the advisors, as who is that? The rabbis, every rabbi in your community. And there's, by the way, a known principle that says that a rabbi, even if there's, let's say, a Talmid Chacham, a great Torah scholar, a head of a yeshiva, and he's a big genius. And then there's another person that's the rabbi. The head of the yeshiva has to listen to the rabbi, the appointed rabbi over the community, because the appointed rabbi of the community, he makes practical decisions. And because of that, God helps him, gives him help. And why is that? The head of the yeshiva, he knows everything, but it's all in his mind. It says, who are the ones that are practical in our generation you have to listen to? That's the rabbis of our generation, especially. So therefore, they have the power and they have the ability to give advice. Right, that we have to listen to them. And we're going to go over this, God willing, tomorrow. Tomorrow is Friday. I want to finish this. We'll finish this up tomorrow. God willing, at 3:00, we'll have a class in the Haftorah. But like I said, I have to go somewhere today. God bless you. Oh, we have to sound the show for a little bit. Here we go. We'll do the Yom Yom at 3:00. Okay, have a good day with Moshiach now. I'll see you all, God willing, at 3:00. And if you're not there, you can look at the YouTube. They put it up on YouTube. Shalom uvracha.